Good morning, everyone. It's New Year's Eve when I'm filming this. Right here is a strawberry cake mix I'm mixing up, and I was gonna just make a cake with sprinkles for a birthday we have here in our household. However, my son and his girlfriend actually were invited to a New Year's Eve party, so I'm turning them into cupcakes. Okay, so the cupcakes are ready to go in the oven. And next I'm making the pepperoni bread. So I use the pepperoni sandwich style, which is a larger round circle of pepperoni, provolone cheese, and puff pastry. I went ahead and lined a cookie sheet with parchment paper, but just a note, puff pastry comes with its own, so you can certainly use this if you don't have any additional parchment paper on hand. And I use this piece to roll out on my counter and stuff the pepperoni bread, and then I transfer the unbaked bread to the parchment paper lined cookie sheet. So now that it's nice and rolled out, I'm just going to start assembling the pepperoni bread. I start with a handful of pepperonis, and you can see how large these are compared to a regular piece of pepperoni because this is deli meat. So I'm just going to start layering it in the puff pastry. So that took about 9 pieces. What I do is I fold the pieces of provolone in half and then use half pieces of the cheese. So I just fold it over like that, and then I go ahead and layer it with the pepperoni. After that is done, then I go ahead and I roll up the dough. It's not going to be like a fruit roll-up. You want it a little loose because this is a bread. So you just go ahead and roll it up about 2 inches or so. Continue with that size roll. I just press together the ends to kind of seal them off. And then I place it in my cookie sheet. So this is where my pepperoni bread is probably different than other recipes you've seen. I'm gonna go ahead and spray the tops. I made 2, by the way, so I have 2 in the pan, and I'm gonna spray the tops with olive oil spray. You can also use melted butter and then just drizzle it on. And then my secret ingredient, I take garlic butter seasoning by Grill Mates. It's a McCormick brand seasoning, and I'm gonna sprinkle it on the top. And the final step is the parsley flakes. So I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle those on top. This is going to bake at 400 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes to start. You'll know it's done when it's puffed up and it turns brown, but not burnt, obviously. However, if it's not ready after 20 minutes, just put it in for 5 to 10 minutes more until you've reached 30 minutes, and then that is the maximum baking time. The reason I say it like that is because, as I have found out, when you're baking more of anything, a lot of times it takes longer cooking time. I have this little planner in my kitchen, and it's basically a guide for what I will be making. When I made the pepperoni bread, you can see here, I put the cooking instructions so I don't forget. And that's how I keep track, especially when I'm making a ton of food at the same time. It's hard for me to keep track of what the temperature is for each dish, how long to bake it. So I just make a note. So this is a good way, an easy tip to keep track of all the food when you make a big buffet like this. The next thing we're going to make is Italian bread using the Pillsbury French bread in a can. You're going to spray a loaf pan with olive oil, cooking spray, or some kind of spray to coat it so that the bread doesn't stick. As you can see on the can, you can do French bread or Italian bread. For the Italian bread, you're just going to plop it down in the pan, seam side down. Then I'm going to take my olive oil spray and just spray the top just like we did the pepperoni bread. And once again with the same seasonings, you're going to sprinkle the garlic butter and the parsley on top. As you can see here, that's what it looks like. The bread wasn't on my original plan, So I added it to my board and I'm gonna bake it at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. The cupcakes are also baking at 350 degrees, so I'm just gonna put the bread in after the cupcakes are done. The cupcakes just came out, let's poke them. Those are done, they're also firm to the touch. They're also a little bit brown. The bread just came out of the oven and now I'm putting the pepperoni bread in. I use a serrated knife to cut up the bread, and it's super easy to cut. It goes right through the bread. It's very soft. It makes a thick, dense bread, and it is wonderful. I don't eat this because I'm gluten-free, but my adult children absolutely love it. I served it at Christmas, and that's why I'm serving it again on New Year's Eve. I'm back over at my kitchen table, and I'm decorating all the cupcakes. I just dip them face down in the frosting. The pepperoni bread just came out of the oven, and I just want to show you how flaky this is. Look at that. Look at the bend to it. And then I take the serrated knife again, and I just start to cut it. Look at that. It just cuts so easily with one hand. I'm holding the phone with my left hand, so you can see how easy this cuts. You can see how good it looks inside there. Look at that. That filling. It makes a nice presentation too. And you can make multiples of these very quickly and easily. So if you are having like a lot of people over, you could make 4 of these and it really takes no time at all. As I get dishes made, I go ahead and just erase them off the board all together. So I've done the Italian bread and I've also done the pepperoni bread. So I'll just go ahead and erase those. So in looking at my list, the next thing I need to do is make some bacon. The oven is already preheated to 400 because I just made the pepperoni bread. So now I'm going to make the bacon in the oven for the shrimp bacon cheese and also the stuffed potatoes. The way I make my bacon is I line a cookie sheet with parchment paper and then I lay the bacon out on it and bake it. So then once I layer the bacon in the cookie sheet, I go ahead and put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Then what I will do is I will take the pan out, flip it over, and cook it for another 5 to 10 minutes until crispy. Next on my menu are baked stuffed potatoes. I went ahead and washed off these really giant potatoes. I have 5 of them in here. And now I'm gonna give them a good rub down with olive oil. First, I cover a cookie sheet with just some tin foil, plain side up. And then I'm going to go ahead and tear off 5 good-sized sheets of tin foil to wrap the potatoes in once they're oily. So for this, I have 5 sheets of tin foil, and then I have the potatoes next to me, and I have a fork. And I also have my olive oil. I'm trying to minimize mess while I do this. So first, I'm going to give the potatoes a good oil bath. And I'm just going to take my hands and rub the oil onto the potato directly and then cover it in the tin foil. I'm going to go ahead and poke some holes with a fork into the potato, probably about 5 to 6 times. After I poked the holes, I covered it in the tin foil and then I just placed that on the cookie sheet. And then you do this for as many potatoes as you have. So at this point, the bacon still has a few minutes to cook, and I'm just waiting to put the potatoes in. I'm going to bake these for about an hour to start. Because I have 5 extra large potatoes, they probably will need more cooking time, but I want to see where they're at after an hour, because you don't want to over bake anything either. So it's always good to play it safe and just cook it for less time, check it, and then continue on with the cooking if it needs more time. The bacon's been in the oven for 20 minutes. The time is about 11:23, so I'm making very good time. I'm going to bake the bacon for about another 10 minutes to get it crispy. Then we can start working on some other dishes. The bacon just came out of the oven. The potatoes just went in. It's nice and crispy. I put it on a paper towel on a plate just to absorb the grease. The potatoes are just about done, and now I'm preparing a pan for my standing rib roast. So first thing I do is I cover a baking pan. It's about 13 by 9, and I'm covering it with some tin foil. And then I'm going to spray a coating of the olive oil spray on it to keep the rib roast from sticking. And I just put some light salt on mine. And if you've noticed, I have the rib side up in the pan. Now, there's all different kinds of seasonings you can use on this, but I'm on a low oxalate diet. So because of that, I can only have salt. I make mine like this because it's easier for me once I pull it out of the oven, and then it stands up like this so I can cut it in between the rib racks. And that's why I do it like this. Now, somebody else may do it differently, but this is how I've always done it. So what I'm going to do here is once the potatoes come out, the oven is still preheated to 400 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven at the 400 degree mark for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to turn my oven down to 350 and bake it for 2 hours. The prime rib is in the oven. It's got about 50 minutes left. The time is now 2:55. I'm still good on time here. I just checked the potatoes and they're perfectly baked. Look at that nice fluffy potatoes. The next dish I'm preparing is the shrimp, bacon, and cheese dish. I have a 2-pound bag of frozen shrimp, and they're not defrosted, so I'm going to steam them in my steamer. So I have this nice pan with a steamer insert. I've already filled the bottom with water. I'm going to steam on medium heat until the shrimp turn red. My bacon has had a chance to cool off, so while this shrimp is steaming, I'm going to go ahead and chop up the bacon. And I'm just using a knife just to chop up the bacon into little pieces for both my shrimp, cheese, and bacon dish, as well as my stuffed potatoes. Okay, so this is what the bacon looks like chopped up. The next thing I have to do is shred a block of cheese. I got this giant 32 ounce of cheese at the BJ's Wholesale Club, and it's sharp cheddar. And this will be used for both the potatoes and the shrimp dish. Now I just want to show you the back here, the ingredients. The reason I shred it myself instead of buying it already shredded is because sometimes they use a potato starch in shredded cheese or something else like that. Because I'm low oxalate, I can't have potato starch. So I use this one and shred it myself to avoid any more oxalates than I need to ingest. While it is true, it does say there's vegetable color, but the amount of oxalates in annatto is usually not a concern unless you have kidney stones. I do not have kidney stones, so I don't need to worry about it. The other option would be to find a hard-aged cheese with nothing but cheese in it. And that would be an option for somebody that has kidney issues that cannot have any oxalates. So to make efficient work for myself, I have a stand-up cheese grater, and I'm going to have a bowl under it, and then I'm going to grate it into the bowl. I actually found it easier to kind of stand it on its side a little bit and then grate downwards. It's easier on my hand. I just shredded this whole bowl. There's still this much left on the block, so about 2/3 of the block, maybe a little less than that, filled the bowl. Checked on the shrimp and it's not even pink yet, so I have to wait to do that. So in the meantime, I found my box of goodies for parties. These are little baking pans. I think I got these at the Dollar Tree like 2 years ago or so. And then I got some bags, but they have the windows in them. And I also have a case of those. I want to say these came from Uline, maybe? Yeah, I just looked at the label. So the case was from Uline. And the reason I bought these is because when my kids were in high school, I was that mom who did baking for everything. So every single fundraiser, every single bake sale, every single occasion, I was the one who brought cake, cookies. So I had these left over. And if you haven't seen my other videos about the birthday celebration, we had 3 birthdays between Christmas and New Year, so we did an ice cream party. And these are the tidbits we had out for the ice cream sundaes. I'm going to pack them in these little bags to keep them fresh so they don't go stale. So I have all the tidbits I'm packing away. We're not a family that eats a lot of sugar in general, so I'm just packing it away, and whatever is left at the end of the week I'll probably toss. But you can see there's candy, cookies. I still have some leftover chocolate chip cookies that I made and dipped in chocolate. There's still a few Dollar Tree cupcakes over there. I got everything packed away in case it goes stale. What is this mess on my floor? Hello? Jax. He's like, I didn't do it. Creamsicle. Is this a catnip party? Jax, is this a catnip party? I believe it is. Oh boy. There he goes. He's going to start rolling in it. He's got all of his toys spread all over everywhere. Look at him. Oreo's contemplating coming over as well. All their toys are spread all over the place from Christmas. You enjoying some catnip on this New Year's Eve? I just checked the shrimp and they're just about done. So now in a bowl, I'm going to mix bacon and cheddar for the potatoes. And I'm only taking what I need for the potatoes because the rest of it is going into the shrimp dish. So what I'm doing now is just opening the potatoes. I slice it the long way and then I make some cuts like this and then I open them up to stuff them. My kids, I say kids, they're in their 20s, they call these loaded potatoes. I don't know why I call them stuffed potatoes. It could be because my relatives were Southern. I don't know. If you know where the term stuffed potato came from versus loaded, please leave me a comment because I honestly don't know why I call them stuffed. My kids think it's funny. Okay, I have all the potatoes prepared. As you can see, they're nice and fluffy. I got them all open. And now I'm going to stuff them with the cheese and bacon. So I just take a handful and then I just push it down into the potato. And that's all I do. I don't add butter or anything else. Just cheese and bacon. If they want salt, pepper, chives, onions, or anything else people put on these kind of potatoes, sour cream, whatever, they can add that themselves. I just do this part. And now after the prime rib is out of the oven, which it has about 10 minutes left, I'll put these in uncovered with the tin foil off of the potato and just let this all melt in, and then these will be finished. The beef roast is looking good. Now I'm going to take the rest of the cheese and bacon and mix it up for the shrimp casserole. Thankfully, I didn't even realize this when I bought these, but these already had the tails and shells off. Sometimes when I get these at BJ's in the 2-pound bags, I have to do all that myself. These came from Walmart. So now all I have to do is put them in the casserole and mix up the cheese and bacon with them. So for the shrimp cheese and bacon dish, I do add some Kerrygold butter. I just add about 2 tablespoons. Then I'm just going to dump in the cheese and bacon mixture. Then I topped it with the shrimp, and now I'm just going to stir it all up. I'm just going to mix it right up, right in the dish that I'm baking it in. And when I bake it, it's already cooked, you see. So all I need to do now is just melt the cheese. So I can just set this aside and do it at any time. That's a really quick thing, about 10 minutes. So I'm just mixing it up nice and thoroughly, and then I'm going to set it off to the side. So the next step is to put the potatoes in the oven until the cheese melts. The prime rib roast is ready, so I'm going to take that out, but remember the oven is at 350, so I'm going to turn the heat up to 375 and let that preheat for a minute. I set the potatoes in the oven for 10 minutes. This is the prime rib roast, how it's looking. I'm going to cover this with tin foil and let it rest. It's right around 4 o'clock. There are 16 ounces or 1 pound in this bag. And if you look here, these are not bay scallops. Bay scallops are much smaller. My grandfather used to take me scalloping when I was a kid. We'd go out on the river in a boat, and he had plexiglass on the bottom of a bucket. And we would find the scallops, and we would pluck them up, take them home, shuck them, and fry them up in the pan with butter. They were absolutely delicious. But these are the bigger ones, sea scallops. And the reason for that is I'm going to wrap them in prosciutto. So here I have about 20 scallops, and here I have about 10 pieces of the prosciutto. This is a 6-ounce package. So I'm going to be cutting these up in pieces, probably cutting them in half to assure I have enough to wrap around each scallop. The first thing I do is set out a piece of wax paper on my counter to protect my countertop and to also give the scallops a clean place while I prepare them. And I've got ahead and put some parchment paper on a small cookie sheet. I also confirmed this is only pork and sea salt, so I can eat it on a low oxalate diet because it has no other seasonings. Prosciutto is a very thin slice of meat, so you want to go ahead and peel up the paper. It's very difficult to work with. It's not as easy to work with as, say, bacon or other lunch meat. So you want to just peel up the paper with it. That way you get a good clean piece. The potatoes just dinged in the oven. That was 10 minutes at 375. You can see how the cheese melted nicely. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and in the tinfoil wrapper, I'm just going to put it on a tray. Of course, if you're having a party with guests and all that, you want to do this fancier. I'm just doing this for my kids, so it doesn't have to be fancy. But you can see how somebody has already gotten in and devoured a bunch of the pepperoni bread. So that's okay. That's what this day is about. Festivities, fun, happiness. I do find it easier to use pinking shears and just cut the prosciutto in half with the paper still attached to it. Also at this time, because the oven is nice and preheated, I am going to put the shrimp cheese casserole into the oven to melt the cheese, and I'm going to bake this at 375 for 10 minutes. I went ahead and sprayed the cookie sheet with some olive oil cooking spray just so that the scallops don't stick when they're cooking. Okay, so for this part, I take a scallop and I'm going to wrap the prosciutto around it like a blanket. Now I'm going to put these seam side down. I'm not going to put a toothpick or anything like that in it, just seam side down. Lay it right here on the cookie sheet. Now if it doesn't fit around the scallop and the piece isn't big enough, no worries. Just put it like that. Leave one side open on the end. Otherwise, put it seam side down. I got some aged Parmesan to sprinkle on top. I had just enough prosciutto, and I even had 1 or 2 pieces extra, so the bigger scallops I went ahead and wrapped twice with 2 pieces. That's what that looks like. I'm just going to go and sprinkle this on there. That was a 5-ounce tub of the Parmesan, and I used the whole thing. So that's what that looks like with the cheese on it. The timer just dinged for the shrimp dish, so I'm going to switch it out with the scallops. The shrimp dish just came out of the oven. You can see how the cheese melted. I'll give it a good stir before serving. And the scallops are now in the oven at 375 degrees for 20 minutes. I'm going to just give this a stir while it's still hot to make sure that that gets all mixed in nicely. Look at the butter that melted and the cheese. Oh my goodness, I can taste it. I'm so hungry right now. Okay, back to my board. I've done the rib roast, I've done the shrimp bacon cheese, and the scallops are in the oven. The time is now a little past 4:15. I'm still making great timing. If you're cooking up a feast like this and you have company coming, it's just a matter of timing. I started this process at 8:30 this morning. So we are celebrating the 3rd birthday with a cheesecake. And I'm going to be making a strawberry cheesecake. For the cheesecake, I need sugar, butter, and milk. And as you see here, we celebrated a birthday the other day with a cherry cheesecake. And like I said, I have adult children, and we really don't eat that much sugar in this house. That's why you see 1 slice missing, because we don't eat that much sugar, despite the videos I put out with all the sugary goodies. The 20-minute timer just dinged, and as you can see, it's kind of a soppy mess in there. I used to make asparagus wrapped in prosciutto all the time, and I never had this, but I didn't dry off the scallops before I baked them. So I've prepared a rack on top of a cookie sheet, giving it about a 2-inch lift. I put some paper down on the cookie sheet just to prevent the drippings from making a mess while cooking. And I'm going to transfer the scallops over to the rack. So I just have the tongs out, and I'm just transferring them over. And now that they're over here on the rack, I've got them all over here, I'm going to stick them back in the oven, preheated at 375 degrees for about 10 minutes just to crisp them up. The 10-minute timer just went off, and as you can see, it did crisp them up, so that worked better. So this is what they look like out of the oven. They're nice and crispy, no more gooiness. I'm just plating them up now. I would definitely do it like this again though. I would bake them first and then put them on the rack for about 10 minutes just to crisp them up if I do this dish again. But in all reality, I make this like once a year because it's not something I make every day. Scallops are really expensive. For now, I just stuck a lid on it. So dinner is actually ready to serve. It's a little early in the day still. It's not even 5 o'clock, believe it or not. I got all this done before 5. I still have a cheesecake to make, and I talked to my daughter about the lava cakes. She said that cheesecake is enough and we'll save this for another time, so maybe we'll make these on Valentine's and I can make a video about it and what went into it and making them. For the crust, for the no-bake cheesecake, you blend in the crust mix they give you. You have to add 2 tablespoons of sugar and 4 tablespoons of melted butter. So there's the butter. I just put it in the microwave for a minute and it melted it. Now you stir all this completely together and then press into the bottom of a pie dish. It stirred up perfectly with just a rubber spatula. I didn't use an electric mixer or anything. And now I'm going to get a pie dish and then press it into the bottom. So one thing to note about this, I just made it work. I forgot this was a 6-slice pie, but I'm adding filling to it of my own. So it's going to be an 8-slice pie when I get done with it. And as you can see, it just barely fit into the pie shell. I should have used a smaller pie dish if I was going to prepare it like the box says. But you'll see next a trick that I learned. When I made the cherry cheesecake, my son's girlfriend said, "Did you add the cream cheese?" I didn't know to do that because I don't eat pie. The box doesn't say anything about adding cream cheese. She said her mother always made it with a drop of lemon juice and added a brick of cream cheese. So for this, I am going to use the electric mixer, but you can see I added the cream cheese. Now this is a strawberry cheesecake, so I'm not adding the lemon, but I did add it to the cherry one. The box says to mix it on low for 30 seconds and then medium for, like, what does it say, 3 minutes or something like that. They want you to keep mixing it until it becomes really thick. So this is thick like pudding. That's how thick this is. Now I have to refrigerate this for an hour, but you can see it fills up the pie pan with that extra cream cheese. If I didn't add that, this would be a way smaller pie. The prime rib is a little rare. If you aren't accustomed to eating rare meat, you can always just pan fry it to your liking. The cheesecake is solidified now, and I'm just adding the strawberries out of a can on the top. This is strawberry pie filling, and it's in like a syrupy liquid. This cheesecake smells so delicious. So we got the sparkling cider to ring in the new year. I have sparkling San Pellegrino water without the added sugar. We have the strawberry cheesecake for one birthday. We have the leftovers from the ice cream party. We have the scallops wrapped in prosciutto. We have the cheesy shrimp bacon dish. We also have the stuffed potatoes with cheddar and bacon. We have the pepperoni and cheese bread, the Italian bread, and we also have cupcakes that my son and his girlfriend are taking to the party they're going to for New Year's Eve. And we have the prime rib. I hope you're hungry and you came with an appetite. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.